Hey guys! So Behavior just released the new developer update for the up-and-coming PTB, so I'm going to be going over all the main points and talking about it with you guys. And if any of you want to read over the full list of the patch notes and any of the little minor things that I maybe skipped over, I'll be leaving a link down in the description below for you guys. Alright, so starting off with the big major changes, healing is getting a massive nerf. Moving forward, default medkit healing is being increased from 16 seconds to 24 seconds, and because of the increased heal time, all medkits have had their charges adjusted to 24 by default, so that way you'll still be able to get that full heal from them. So any add-ons that add more charges to your medkits have also been reviewed, so now it is impossible for a medkit to fully heal a survivor more than twice in a single match. And the ultra healing speed for all medkits has been reduced, as well as the self-heal speed has been removed completely for the higher rarity medkits. As the game stands now, survivors can easily heal themselves in 10 seconds or less with the right perks and add-ons, which obviously makes it really difficult for killers to do any kind of hit and run style plays, and especially takes its toll on weaker killers who aren't as strong in chase and sometimes can't even afford to continue a chase, whether that be because the survivors had a really strong loop, or because they really need to leave and pressure a gen. Dropping a chase only to have a survivor heal up nearly instantly makes it extremely difficult to keep up any kind of pressure. That being said, with the new update, going against perks like Sloppy Butcher and Chlorophobia are going to make it a massive pain for survivors to do any kind of healing. So maybe they'll be messing around with those perks later on, I'm not really sure. But my other main point that I'm kind of worried about is what's going to happen when survivors can't heal themselves. If they're left with nothing else to do or nothing to take up their time, survivors are just going to do their objective, which is do the gen. And they already do that quite a bit. It happens all the time in higher rank MMR matches where survivors don't bother healing at all and they just chunk through the gens, and it makes the game fly by. Removing the ability to heal quickly and so often will definitely make things riskier for survivors and give the killer more openings for faster downs, but I have a feeling that against even decent survivors, this could potentially backfire. So touching on the note of gens, we got some minor buffs and some pretty big nerfs. So the biggest ones are to Pain Res, Overcharge, and Call of Brine. Pain Res will now start with 4 tokens. The first time you hook a survivor on a Scourge hook, the gen with the most progress will explode and lose 15% progress. This means that you're going to have to try and plan out when you use your Scourge hooks, because you don't want to hook somebody too soon and then waste that progress on, a gen that's got less than 20%. And you have to also be mindful of where your Scourge hooks spawn, as anybody who's ever used a Scourge hook knows that they love to spawn out in the middle of nowhere or in a tiny little group all clumped up. So chances are you probably won't get much use from Pain Res anymore. So Call of Brine is getting its regression rates reduced. So before the change, additional regression was 150, 175, and 200%, and now it's going down to 115, 120, and 125%. So there's a pretty major change there, but given the other options that we have for gen regression, I would still say it's definitely worth using it, especially if you pair it with some other gen kicking perks. And Overcharge has had its maximum regression speed lowered to 130% from 200%, and because this is going to make it take longer for the regression rate to be of any benefit, the starting rate has been buffed from 75% to 85%, and the penalty for missing the special skill check has been reduced to 2, 3, and 4% depending on the level, whereas before it was 3, 4, and 5%. So Gearhead is also making an appearance in this update for a slight buff. So it currently reveals the aura of the next survivor to hit a skill check after a survivor loses a health state. The conditions require quite a bit of work and luck on the killer's part to get value out of it. So now instead, when a survivor loses a health state, Gearhead will activate for 30 seconds, and while active, any survivor who hits a good skill check will have their aura revealed for 6, 7, and 8 seconds. So rather than only being able to see one survivor aura once, you're able to see multiple survivors in the span of 30 seconds. And if I'm being completely honest, I kind of forgot this perk even existed before this. But now that it's out, I think that it could potentially be a nice little addition to an aura reading build. Okay, so onto the survivor perk changes. And I'm sure by now, even if you haven't read the patch notes, you've probably heard about this because so many people have been absolutely losing their minds over this. I swear some of them have gone completely feral to the point where they're literally threatening Behavior to boycott their new game. And I'm gonna be honest, pretty sure 99% of the people saying that probably had no intention of ever even playing the new game in the first place. Behavior has been trying really hard for some time now to shake up the meta. Denard got a nerf a while back in the hopes of encouraging people to start using some other perks. Obviously, that has not been the case, and Denard is back to being the most picked survivor perk. Going forward, Denard will only activate after you safely unhook a survivor. Once active, you can press the ability button while injured and running to gain the endurance status effect for 0.5 seconds and then become exhausted. Denard will deactivate if it successfully protects you from taking damage. So if you do end up messing up your Denard, it won't deactivate, so you'll still have a chance to use it later on without needing to go and get another safe unhook. I'm honestly okay with this change. Sure, the current Denard can be waited out, but against any decent survivor who isn't just gonna panic and press the button, it can waste a lot of time. And I think that this is a nice little change to balance it out. And it actually makes it more in line with Medal of Man, which no one's ever really complained about that, having a set of things you need to do before you can activate it. I think a big part of the reason why so many people are so upset at the notion of Denard getting changed is because it's been giving free hits for 6 years and everybody has kind of grown attached to it by now. But it'll be okay. Circle of Healing got a massive nerf. Honestly, behavior did way more to it than I actually thought that they were going to do. But going forward, Circle of Healing will no longer allow survivors to heal without a medkit. Instead, it will provide a 40, 45, and 50% healing speed bonus while healing others. This bonus will not apply when using a medkit either, and additionally, the auras of any injured survivors while in the boon range will be revealed to everybody. So, going into this, I thought that boons were going to be turned into more like hexes, where you'd have like one charge to bless a totem, so you'd have to be careful about where you chose to place it and when. But with this change, I feel like the only people who are going to be running Circle of Healing are going to be survivors running like altruistic heal builds. But it does show injured survivors in their auras, which is kind of similar to Empathy. So I guess maybe it might actually help out in solo survivor if you're trying to get heals from your team. So moving on to some of the lighter stuff, I'm sure many of you will be very happy to hear that the Blood Web is finally getting an update. So there's going to be 3 main changes to it. The first is you'll now be able to one-click buy items off the Blood Web instead of having to like press and hold the button every single time. And going forward, you can select any item on the Blood Web no matter where it is, and the game will automatically buy everything on the way to that item instead of making you buy it one by one by one. And then the last main change is to really help speed up prestiging. So you'll now be able to select like this little node in the center of the web, and it'll automatically buy out the whole level for you. Auto buying is supposed to prioritize perks and then just whatever is cheapest on the web. And honestly, I'm super excited for this because spending points after a rank reset could take like an hour, and ain't nobody got time for that. The Autohaven Maps, Blood Lodge, and Gas Haven will also be getting a slight rework. So behaviors notice that these maps either have a lot of dead zones or way too many safe zones when the map is generated, and the maps also have very little line of sight blockers, so it makes it really difficult for survivors trying to break line of sight and counter range killers, while also making it almost impossible for stealth killers to like sneak up on survivors in certain areas of the maps. So to fix this, the main building of Blood Lodge will be moved closer to the center of the map, and some of the tiles are going to be separated just so that way it's a little harder to loop super strong tiles together. As for Gas Haven, it currently has these really long piles of cars that separate large portions of the map. Those are going to be broken up into smaller pieces, and they'll also have options for pallets as well, so it's not quite a dead zone. This is going to make it a lot easier to reach those further back sections without having to waste a bunch of time going all the way around that Great Wall of China. And similar to what's happening with the Blood Lodge, the Gas Haven's main building is going to be moved towards the center. And given the fact that it's a pretty strong building, the window and pallet spawns are going to be reworked and adjusted just to prevent some like crazy strong combination loops. I'm happy to hear that these are getting shuffled around a bit. As someone who really enjoys stealth killers, these maps can be a major pain as they are now, and just makes things really difficult. And so I'm hopeful that I'll finally actually be able to stealth around a little bit more. And honestly, I just can't wait for those stupid car piles to be chopped up. It really sucks when you're trying to go check a gen or you're chasing somebody who already has a bit of a head start on you. And because there's currently no, cutoff point or way to go around, it just ends up being a major time consumer. So some minor killer changes are going to be coming out, and there's also some main ones being the Hillbilly buff and nerf. So the amount of heat that is generated by starting your chainsaw rev and continuing the rev is going to be dramatically reduced. But Billy's Doom Engravings and Death Engraving add-ons are going to be nerfed, and they will provide less movement speed. They didn't say by how much they're reducing the speed by, so maybe it's not going to be too bad. But honestly, I just don't know why they did it. Billy's basically already extinct after his last nerf, and his Gravings are really his only good add-on. So, rest in pepperoni to the 6 remaining Billy mains out there. There's also going to be some minor buffs to some of Pig, Oni, Freddy, and Pyramid Head's weaker add-ons. And I also just really quickly wanted to point out this little part in the notes where they crossed out deciding to nerf the pig. I just thought it was a funny little joke, and it's always nice to see stuff like that shows you that Behavior is well aware of the community memes. And I don't know, it's not something that you see with most game companies, so it's just something goofy that I saw that I liked. And lastly, for the majority of killers' powers, they don't have any interaction with survivor items, and that leads to the ones that do have those interactions feeling a little unfairly punished for something that's beyond their control. So in this update, Behavior is going to be removing any flashlight interactions with various killer powers. So that includes the Wraith burning out of his cloak, burning Nurse so that way she can't charge up her blinks, shining a light on a Swarm survivor to scare away Artist Crows, and burning up Hag's traps so that she cannot teleport. In the case of Hag, to ensure that there's still counterplay to her traps, the survivors will instead be able to crouch up on a trap and perform a wipe away action. So that'll give everybody in the lobby a chance to actually safely remove the traps, while also taking up some of their time, and it prevents them from destroying the traps in the middle of a chase. So this is going to be a pretty big update, and I'm pretty excited to see how it goes. I'll be making a follow-up video next week once the PTB drops, and I've had the chance to actually test out these changes. And I know that some people aren't really happy with some of the changes that are coming, but please keep in mind that nothing has been set in stone. Changes can and probably will be happening before any of this hits live servers anyways. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.